Welcome to Upvoted No Sleep, where OP Mrbeefthighs writes, people always talk about the number of monsters that reside in our country's vast tracts of uninhabitable land, the dense forests, deep caves, and the remote mountaintops, and the danger these creatures present to us. They're right to warn you, especially about the areas under our national parks. But did you ever stop to think about why the vast majority of people that go missing are last seen in some of our largest cities? For every one person that goes missing in the American wilderness, 3 vanish in our cities. Granted, some of these disappearances on both sides can be contributed to murders, accidents, kidnappings, or even runaways. But a growing number each year can be contributed to those things that live in the shadows. And it's getting worse, especially in our cities. Ask any homeless person on the street. They'll tell you, 99.99% of the people they tell will write them off as crazy or under the influence. But I promise you, they aren't lying. They saw a huge, sticky tongue latch onto a woman and pull her into a dumpster. So have I. They saw a little girl lure a man into an alleyway before pulling his arm off and lapping up the puddle of blood. It's not crazy. I've seen that too. A living shadow that envelops its victims in a suffocating black slime. Oh, I haven't seen that one, but I know a guy who did. I believe him. These things are all around us, and you'll do well to listen to my story and take heed. It could save your life. A girl had gone missing. Young, blonde, blue eyes. The kind that gets her face all over the news when they go missing. Her name was Amelia Meager. I'm sure the entire city had her name and face memorized by the time my story started. Seems like it was all they played on the news for a week. About a week after Amelia's disappearance, I was walking home from the bars drunk and cursing myself for not being able to close with a girl I was talking to. That's when a voice called out to me. Now, normally, I wouldn't have paid any attention. Not too many people you want to hang out with are on the streets after 2 a.m. But this was a woman's voice, and being the guy that I was at the time, I came to a screeching halt, and I turned in the direction that the voice called from. The voice originated from a dark shadow beneath a highway overpass bridge. "Hello?" I called into the darkness, my eyes straining to pick up the shapes moving around in the inky black. "Can you help me?" The voice called back from somewhere in the darkness. "I think I'm lost." Something about the voice was strange. Like the cadence was slightly off. Like whoever was speaking was reading lines and didn't fully understand what they were saying. It reminded me of students reciting lines in my Spanish class back in school. I still couldn't pinpoint exactly where the voice was coming from as it reverberated down the buildings and the overpass above. "Oh, where are you?" I said into the darkness, still standing just outside the shadow of the overpass. "I can't see you." I heard movement from within the shadow. Not footsteps, but something dragging along the ground. "I'm here," the darkness said. Closer now. I fixed my eyes on the source of the voice, and as my eyes adjusted, a figure came into focus. Just faintly through the darkness, I could make out a dirty white sundress. The ethereal glow of the fabric created a stark contrast against the darkness that enveloped her, and it made her facial features much harder to see. I still can't see you." I strained my eyes, squinting into the dark. "Could you come out into the light?" I watched the outline of the sundress move. It seemed to glide through the air slowly. I heard no footsteps, and I didn't hear the dragging noise either. It came to a stop about 4 feet from its original position, still sequestered well within the shadow, but I could now see a little more. In the dim light, I could see the blonde hair and the blue eyes of Amelia Meager. She was bruised and bloody. Scabs dotted her face, her arms, and her legs. This look of crazed terror filled her eyes, like she was trying with all of her willpower to scream, but she couldn't. "Amelia?" I asked, sobering up quickly. Are you Amelia?" I took a step towards her. "Please, help me," Amelia said, as she abruptly reached a hand out in my direction. I took a step back this time. Something wasn't right about her. The extending of her hand was too jerky and choreographed, and her mouth when she spoke was just downright unnatural. Her jaw moved up and down in a chomping motion, but her lips never moved. It was like watching a dubbed-over foreign film. Nothing about this situation felt right at all. But I had to do something. This was Amelia Meager, the girl who had been all over the news for the last 5 days. I recognized her right away. I couldn't just leave her there. I had seen her family on television crying. So I took another step towards her, and I reached my hand into the shadow to grab onto her extended hand, when suddenly a car drove by. The headlights illuminated her for half a second, just as I was about to grab her. She wasn't standing. Her bare feet hung pointed to the ground, her chipped toenails dragging along the cement. She had fine, barely perceptible threads intricately wrapped around her joints, her knees, wrists, elbows, and shoulders. A few other fine silky threads were attached on both sides of her jaw and both sides of her head. Her eyes were screaming at me. I've never in my life seen anyone look so helpless. In that half second of light, my eyes followed the thin strands of silk that attached to her joints to their origin on the ceiling the overpass made above us. Barely visible, a giant, hulking spider pressed up against the overpass, each of its 8 legs manipulating a strand of silk controlling their marionette below. I took 2 steps back out of the shadow, staring at the massive creature. I watched it twitch its legs, and my eyes darted back down to Amelia as she was dragged back into the darkness under the bridge to be used as bait for the next guy unlucky enough to walk this direction. I left her there, and I ran straight home. Amelia Meager was never seen again. I've seen a lot of weird stuff in this city over the years, and stuff like that seems to be happening more and more often. I said all of this to say, don't think you have to be out in the countryside to run into a monster. They're everywhere. Sometimes they even look just like you and me. You probably walk by a few of them every week without even knowing. So, keep your head on your shoulders, and don't do anything stupid, unless you want to spend your last few days being used as bait like Amelia. Or maybe even worse. And that was an upvoted No Sleep story by OP, Mrbeefthighs. Sweet dreams.